In this video, I'm going to cover allegations that companies like Disney, Remedy, and Warner Brothers use bots to manipulate social media so that they can push their products. This has been covered by people like Grums, The Quartering, Side Scrollers, and many others, but it all comes down to the work of one YouTube duo, MasteroftheTDS and Writing Raven, who together host the channel Gothic Therapy. They may look small, but these claims have spread far and wide, with tweets about this issue getting hundreds of thousands of views and thousands of likes. This channel has released many videos talking about bots, but first let's look at their video covering Spiderman 2, which was the most recent at the time of writing. MasteroftheTDS, who I'll call TDS going forward, shows his audience a 50-page tweet montage of what looks like bots promoting Spiderman 2. There is nothing for me to debunk here. I think these tweets and these accounts would meet any normal person's definition of a social media bot. I think TDS does an adequate job substantiating the argument that bots are promoting Spider-Man 2. Next, TDS goes into depth on the largest bot tweet that has over 3 million impressions and only 90 likes.
As you can see here, we have Gerardo Martinez posted on February 23rd, 2024. March 7th brings an exciting update to Marvel's Spider-Man 2 with highly requested features, New Game Plus, Hellfire Gala suits, symbiote suit styles, time of day changes, and more. And as you can see, it's got 90 likes, no retweets, and 3.1 million views. And as you can see, a combination of blue checkmark and non-blue checkmark bots responding. But as you can see, just a bunch of people saying how they can't wait to spring into action, or sounds exciting, can't wait to swing into action. The important thing to take away from this is, as you could see, this is getting a lot of 3.1 million views and 90 likes is a terrible ratio, as we discussed before. And as you can see, there's a bunch of people responding, and these are paid blue checkmark accounts.
To expand upon this, I did notice that this tweet is a copy of Insomniac's tweet posted a couple days earlier. Additionally, I went through the likes and I didn't find a single like from an account that I thought looked legitimate. Also, in TDS's video, there were 90 likes. Now there are only 78. Since I couldn't find people who legitimately liked this tweet, I'm inclined to think that these missing likes were bots that have been purged. Okay, so you're wondering, where's the disagreement? Before we get there, let me summarize our agreement with MasteroftheTDS. After this video is over, this list will look quite short. We both agree these are bots promoting these companies and our products. We also agree that these posts that have millions of impressions with very little interactions are very suspicious. Also, when we do see more interaction, it's just more bots. And then finally, we agree that these bots will tweet about the same thing around the same time, even when they're not tweeting at each other. Now let's get into the disagreement. After going through more bot replies, TDS makes a conclusion that Insomniac is probably behind the bots shown in the video.
I want to clarify something. Do I think Sweet Baby Inc. is involved with this botting effort? I don't know. Probably not. It's probably Insomniac, and that would make a lot of sense. Is it possible that they are doing more promotion of this after the controversy of Sweet Baby Inc.? Yes, definitely possible.
When you are using the word probably, you're making the claim that something is the most likely outcome by far. The chances of something probably happening is well over 50%. We have not provided enough evidence here or in other places to make this claim. In other videos and streams, TDS explains potential reasons why companies would be behind bots like the ones shown in this video. I don't think any of these are compelling enough to conclude that any company is probably responsible for the bot behavior that promotes them. At the end of this video, TDS talks about a bot tweet with 8.1 million impressions with no likes or comments. This tweet hypes up Miles Morales as a character. He then cites an anonymous source that allegedly worked at Twitter.
As you can see here, we have a tweet by Teklu Kundinger, I do not know how to pronounce that says, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, swing through the streets of New York as Miles Morales, the new Spider-Man, with his unique powers, confront new threats and challenges while navigating the responsibilities of being a hero. And the bookmark is me, but it has 8 million views. Take that in for a second. 8 million views on a post with no likes, no retweets, and only 15 comments that are all from blue check mark bot accounts. Does this not look weird to you? Now, you might ask, well, what is the reason someone would do this? Have you ever seen a post out there on Twitter that looks like it's from somebody or someone posting about The Last Jedi or something like that, trying to get people angry, and then their tweet blows up beyond anything their account could have managed, and you kind of wonder, what happened there? Well, I've been told from internal sources that I cannot reveal, so you'll have to take it with a grain of salt. I have been informed by a former Twitter employee that potentially all those accounts or those posts are actually paid for by the companies and are boosted up by bot traffic. So think about it. If you can flip a switch and make a tweet that has no likes, no retweets, but only 15 comments go to 8 million impressions with just a flick of a switch, what could you possibly do for other posts that you wanted to get more traction?
There are a couple problems with this. The first one being that anonymous source. That former Twitter employee? Well, MasteroftheTDS later stated he couldn't even confirm this source worked at Twitter.
I mentioned in my video that I actually had a former Twitter employee. They claimed to be a former Twitter employee. I can't verify it, but they said they worked on getting rid of bots and stuff like that.
It's important to note that TDS is admitting he couldn't verify his source after the video was already posted onto his channel. TDS says he has former Twitter employees and former Disney executives feeding him information, but this discrepancy calls all of his anonymous sources into question. Is he even verifying any of the people he's using as an anonymous source? Shady source aside, let's assume that the source actually did work at Twitter. My main problem with this anonymous testimony is that it's completely disanalogous to the bot situation being described for 3 reasons. First one being, I don't think these bots are attempting to drive up controversy like the examples provided about The Last Jedi. Calling Miles Morales Spider-Man in a general fashion isn't as controversial as hyping up a Last Jedi fight scene. And then on top of that, the anonymous source states that these bots could always be traced back to the company or someone who works at the company. He thinks that these companies are hiring PR firms to run the bots.
This is like really fascinating. The question that kind of comes to my mind is, who's holding the reins? Because even if these are bots, there's someone that has to be controlling the bots. Like, is it the company themselves, or do they hire out third parties? Like, do you think there's like marketing firms that like specialize in like botting or whatnot? Because like for example, we didn't know about Sweet Baby Inc. till recently, but they've been operating in the shadows for years now, doing their consulting gig. Do you think there's something similar but for bots? Like, do you think there's kind of like a secret cottage industry that we're not even aware of? That's, you know.
So to answer your question, I believe that, so again, we can't confirm whether or not it's the companies themselves, but let's imagine for a minute that it is the company, right? It would definitely not be direct because they aren't stupid. So basically, we can keep in mind that this is clearly being run by some third party, if anything.
If this was true, I don't think there would be any way for a Twitter employee to track a bot back to the original company or its workers. It would instead link back to some PR firm, and unless the relationship between that firm and the company was public, there would be no way to tie it back to the original company. As a Twitter employee, we will look at specific Twitter bot activity later, but the idea that these accounts can be traced back to one company or one individual at a company seems far-fetched. Bot activity usually is pretty varied and diverse. I don't see many bots shilling for just one company. Another point MasterofTDS makes is that bot advertising is cheaper than traditional advertising.
You know, again, reiterating, folks, we do not know which companies are paying for this. We don't know the economics behind it. TDS, if you had to guess, looking at all of those accounts, what kind of money are we looking at that's behind this effort?
So it would be significant, the issue being that even if it is significant, it's less significant than it would be to pay for advertising. So if you're, for example, Disney, and you want to advertise, which again, they had to recently kind of come crawling back and advertise again, which they kind of tried to hide and it didn't really work. But it probably, I don't know for certain, but it probably costs a significant amount to advertise on Twitter/X. But if you pay a bunch of bots to do it for you, it's potentially cheaper. And with these third-party sites that exist, which I'm not going to name because it's not a how-to guide, but with these third-party sites where you can buy batches of bots from different years on sale, you can literally just do this fairly easily and fairly cheaply. So there is a significant amount of money behind it. But when compared to the money that you'd pay for advertising, it's quite less significant. And that's the problem.
Let's say for $1,000, you can get 1,000 impressions on YouTube. And for only $100, you can get 1,000 impressions on TikTok. Advertising on TikTok would be much cheaper. But if it was the case that TikTok only produced 1 click for every 1,000 impressions and YouTube produced 200 clicks for every 1,000 impressions, it wouldn't matter if TikTok was cheaper. YouTube advertising is a better value. Your clicks per impressions is way higher. If we compare that to our Twitter bot example, we see that these Twitter bots have a lot of impressions, which I don't even think are real, but they have little to no interactions. The interactions we do see are other bots. How often are these tweets reaching real people? So yes, paying Twitter bots is probably cheaper than traditional advertising, but these bot ratios are so bad, I don't think it's anywhere near as effective as traditional advertising. TDS has a specific point about indirect marketing. He believes that these bots are used to help make things trend.
What is the purpose of this? It's to make artificial hype. A lot of these companies and investors or whatever, they want to see that their investments are doing well. They want to see this. So, for example, they may not take a deep dive and look as far as I have to see that these are bots, right? If you're not looking if you're taking like a glance, you may be fooled by some of them. And if you go on Twitter and there's a bunch of bot accounts out there posting about keywords and phrases, right? That can easily cause something to trend. And if it trends, they can go, well, look, you should invest in us because look, it's trending on Twitter. It's been trending for the past 3 days. You know, they're not going to necessarily click and go through each post, but it is fairly easy to manipulate the trending.
I think that this is unlikely for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that for examples provided, posts presented are very far apart. For example, the tweet TDS shows with 3.1 million views is a carbon copy of a tweet from Insomniac days earlier. If the goal was to make Spider-Man trend, you would think this specific post with millions of impressions would be posted closer to the Insomniac tweet. Also, why are subsequent tweets posted so far apart? One of the guests on Side Scrollers actually brings this up, and I don't think TDS has a great response explaining how these bots can make things trend when they post so far apart.
And just to verify, so you said though that these posts don't all happen at once. I know it's hard to obviously tell exactly when they're posting, but you don't think that they're posting right at once? Because I thought that they would try to get something trending, because with the check marks boosting exposure and it being more likely to recommend to somebody else even if they're not following it, I feel like they're trying to get it trending.
They are, but the thing is, the thing to keep in mind, there are a lot that get posted at the same time. But what I'm pointing out, for example, with the original Moodle Zoop post, is that they did it periodically, so it wasn't all at once. Because it doesn't matter how many blue checkmark boxes you have. If a bunch of blue checkmark accounts are suddenly posting the same thing over and 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 over, eventually it's going to get picked up by the spam filters. It's just how it is. But yeah, it basically they will make a couple posts, like main posts, and then a bunch of people will respond to it, sometimes all at the same time, sometimes a couple a day. It depends on the kind of post. And the idea is, I believe, to keep it kind of trending.
Also, TDS makes his claims about bots pushing topics into trending, but at the time of writing, I haven't seen him demonstrate that these bots have played a large role in helping any company, product, or service trend ever. I want to use a couple of examples to show bot activity that was so bad at promoting these companies that even if these tweets led to a trend, it wouldn't help the company in the slightest. I found a small group of bots talking about a happy ending on July 26th. Found so many tweets about it, but none of them were pointing to a specific product or service. I couldn't figure out what happy ending was happening on July 26th. I had no clue. And then I finally found the Deadpool Wolverine trailer, which was posted on February 11th, which reads, "Everyone deserves a happy ending," in theaters July 26th, along with its trailer. Many of these tweets were so long after the original February 11th post time, and some of them were almost 2 months after this original post. I couldn't find any additional tweets from the major Marvel X-Men accounts with this happy ending wording that could have activated these tweets after the original. Since these tweets were posted so long after the original Marvel tweet, and most of them don't even mention Deadpool or Wolverine, I don't think these bots help the movie trend at all. If anything, they would have gotten something like July 26th to trend, which means nothing out of context. Anyone who clicked on that trending tab would be immensely confused. Since they aren't making a video about bot behavior like I am, they would probably immediately click off. I did eventually find some bots who posted about Deadpool on or a little bit after February 11th, but if we were to believe TDS's theory that these are all promotional bots who have a goal of keeping this trending, why are they doing such a bad job at it, and why are they so far apart? Another instance of bot activity that hurts this trending theory are tweets about Disney attraction grand openings that don't exist. TDS talked about this on a live stream.
Disney fans, get excited. The new attraction at Disneyland is opening its doors today with its magical theme and thrilling rides. The new attraction promises to be a hit with visitors of all ages. Will you be visiting Disneyland to experience the new edition?
Well, my
Sorry,
question
I had
is,
to go.
what
I had to go
new
full hog.
edition?
That's the good question. I don't know.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Don't you like
I'm-
latest attraction? Isn't that great?
I also could not find any news about new attraction opening up on these days the tweets were released. Disney fans who are aware of Disney theme park news would know as soon as they see this. This is a lie. But let's say these bots actually did convince somebody to go to Disney, either directly through an impression or indirectly through a trend started by the bots. Don't you think that those consumers would be pretty pissed off once they got there and realized there was no grand opening? I'm failing to see how bots spreading misinformation about non-existent Disney attractions would help Disney at all. Maybe these tweets can get the word Disney trending, but that's so vague I don't even think it would be helpful. And then on top of everything, going trending isn't inherently good. I've seen so many trends where I click on a trend and it's just thousands of people hating on something. So this idea that the goal is always to trend, I just don't buy it. Okay, so I poked a lot of holes into TDS's theory, but what do I believe is going on? So again, I agree that they are bots, I agree that they look coordinated, and I agree that they boost each other up. What we disagree on is the source and the reasons behind these bots. TDS believes that these bots are coordinated because companies pay them to directly or indirectly promote companies or products in a cheap manner. I believe that the most likely explanation is that the owners of these bots program them to tweet about random or popular topics. Of course, these random or popular topics include pop culture and video games. Setting up a bot is incredibly easy. There are brain-dead tutorials on YouTube that can help you set up a Twitter bot without writing a line of code. You could take topics from websites, news feeds, and even other well-performing tweets. You can then set up ChatGPT to write these topics in a tweet form. You can place ChatGPT's output into Google Sheets, and then from Google Sheets, you could have it automatically post to Twitter. After you set this up, the entire process can be automated from start to finish. I randomly went through a bunch of bots identified in Gothic therapy videos, and I believe even these bots covered support my theory rather than theirs. One of the best examples I believe supports my argument more than his is a Twitter account named Campbell's Kid, which was prominently featured in the video Warner Brothers Caught. TDS shows tweet where Campbell's Kid hypes up Warner Brothers. Okay, so TDS claimed Warner Brothers seemed to be botting and showed a bot tweet that is in support of Suicide Squad. Isn't this good evidence? What Master of the TDS doesn't show you is the rest of Campbell Kid's account. Not only do they tweet and reply very random things, this account in the span of 48 hours tweeted about Suicide Squad, Tekken 8, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, Ark Survival, Yakuza Infinite Wealth, Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077, and Persona 3 from February 3rd to February 4th. Do you think that the master of TDS is correct in his theory and that this bot was hired by a PR firm that somehow works with all of these companies behind these 8 games and for some reason posted about them all using this specific account on February 3rd and 4th? You know my answer. After looking at this account's activity, I think it's much more likely that this account was programmed to tweet about random or popular things within gaming. This user was featured in Gothic Therapy's video called The Mouse Gets Caught, Disney's Botting Empire Revealed. On one day, Flyums will tweet something out like an NFT profile picture about a congressman. Candidate for Congress, West Virginia 2. I hope that's West Virginia. West Virginia State Treasurer, former West Virginia delegate, father, husband, Roman Catholic. This is literally just a candidate's bio repeated here. And in Vietnamese, they'll also tweet about intelligent bottles. This tweet got 32 replies and 56 likes. Not too shabby to be honest, but again, none of these replies seem to be organic. But of course, you can't forget when they tell you to support the Indonesian productive poor and tell you to visit links that don't exist. By the way, this tweet has 5.4 million impressions with 0 likes and 0 retweets. The bookmark is me. Asep Shore, who was featured in TDS's Spider-Man 2 video we talked about earlier. Asep tweeted an image accompanied by something that isn't even a complete sentence and got 5.4 million impressions on January 11th. 2 days later on January 13th, they posted about South Korea and Bitcoin. In the next 2 minutes, they talk about PlayStation Plus game, CoinEx Global, a crypto exchange, Spider-Man 2, as featured in the video, Tears of the Kingdom using a Nelson Mandela quote in a Cozy Quest sale, which I think is a Steam sale. Not to mention these posts have nonsensical hashtags like hashtag Happy Halloween, hashtag Sixers, and hashtag Clippers. An account that replied to ASAP also seemed to have the same pattern of posts. They tweeted a lot about the same topics and even placed the hashtag Sixers, hashtag Clippers, and hashtag Happy Halloween where they didn't belong. In my opinion, when multiple accounts talk about the same things and use the same hashtags and make the same mistakes, I think it's safe to say that these accounts are heavily related or maybe run by the same person. Next we have Pooja Sadar, a bot featured in the Disney Caught Red-Handed video. This account actually has some pretty random activity. After high impression posts about cryptocurrency, the Milk Chug, which I think is a YouTube animation channel, and soccer analysis, Pooja made one Marvel Snap tweet. Again, it's important to remember that Marvel is owned by Disney. But they also made a bunch of other random tweets as well as promoting Sony's Rise of Ronin and a bunch of Web3 and crypto stuff. Again, do we think this YouTube channel, Sky Group, Sony, and Disney are all paying advertising that ended up on this one account? What are the chances of that? Or do you think that this account is just tweeting about crypto and random or popular topics? Next we have Zachary, a bot featured in the Nelson Peltz video, and it's actually a very creepy account. This account is one of the most random bots I've seen since making this video. This account has multiple million impression tweets right before the Nelson Peltz tweets shown in the video. But this account mostly tweets about politics, court cases, and business, but so many of the tweets are just broken. Francesia, a bot featured in the Disney Plus video, made 7.8 million impressions on a tweet about Bitcoin. They went on to tweet about Samsung products, Cadbury chocolate, Redmi, Marvel, Disney's Haunted Mansion, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and they even mixed in some customer service tweets. Again, seems to me that it's unlikely that this account was hired by a PR firm that works with all of these companies. And to wrap it all the way back to Jerry CSI from the Spider-Man video, Jerry did have a bunch of tweets about Spider-Man. I counted 8, all from February 23rd, but they also tweeted about Shin Megami Tensei 5, the PlayStation Chief, Minecraft Skeletons, Caviar, which got over 1 million impressions, Dune, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Red Dead Online, Apple, and a bunch of other tweets about health and the news that scientists develop a way to remove HIV from cells, which is apparently true. How am I finding out about this from a Twitter bot? That's crazy. Anyway, to me, seems like this account used to talk about random or popular topics within the niche of video games, but then pivoted to health and wellness. Seems to me that it's unlikely that this specific bot or bot farm associated with it would be working with Microsoft, Sony, Atlas Sega, Take-Two, and Apple in such a short period of time. And that's ignoring all of the health companies. Why was TDS able to find so many tweets talking about things like Spider-Man with millions of impressions? He was able to find this because these blue checkmark tweets with over 1 million impressions are incredibly common. If you're a fan of foreshadowing, I've actually shown a few accounts from TDS videos that have done this. But here are 20 more I found on my own in a matter of like 10 minutes. So the argument that Disney or Insomniac or Warner Brothers or whatever other big company boosted these posts won't work here. The point of this section is to show you that these bots can drop 1 million plus impressions in their sleep. Spiderman or Disney or Star Wars getting a post with this sketchy ratio of millions of impressions and little to no interaction isn't proof corporations prop these tweets up. Why? Because it's possible and incredibly common to do it without mentioning these products or services. It's almost as if this bot activity is incredibly random. But why are blue checkmark bots easily able to do this? I would guess their bot network makes viewbotting pretty easy. But why? It's very hard to say, and I'm not going to pretend to know. I entertained the idea for a little bit that these Twitter bots could have actually been trying to meet the requirements for Twitter payouts. Using this, the bot farm owners could subsidize their Twitter Blue accounts and make some passive income on the side, but I genuinely don't think Twitter is that stupid. I would guess they would have some protections in place to prevent payouts to accounts like this. Okay, so another thing TDS was able to show was that these bots were tweeting about the same products or companies at the same time. Even when the bots weren't interacting with each other, he was able to show 50 pages worth of bots tweeting about the same. Luckily, I was able to find this in the wild. I found a bunch of bots tweeting about something that isn't a product or a service and exhibiting the same coordinated behavior. I lazily counted over 100 tweets describing the same general facts about the US around the same time frame. This isn't even including the hundreds of replies to these tweets. This same behavior was used to support the claim that Insomniac was probably responsible for the bots that mentioned them. Are you getting my point? The bot behavior identified in Gothic therapy videos is not unique or special. This bot behavior only looked unique because TDS only showed us examples that related to the claims he was making. It was insane selection bias. If we put our blinders on and only look at bot activity directed towards certain things, it looks pretty bad. But when we realize that these things could literally happen with random topics, the argument that these bot farms were paid directly by companies to make these topics trend becomes a lot less convincing. Pointing at bot activity promoting these very popular things isn't enough to claim that the company had anything to do with that bot activity. Even if these tweets are coordinated, even if the tweets had a terrible impression to interaction ratio, it is still not enough to claim the company probably did anything. One point in TDS's theory that is super understandable and simple is the explanation of the profit motive, especially since a lot of these accounts we're talking about have Twitter Blue checkmarks which you have to pay for. These bots make their money and their subscriptions are subsidized by selling their services to companies. I believe that these accounts are making their money in ways that are way more complicated, individualized, and harder to track. This makes my theory look a lot less flashy and attractive. A ton of bots posting about America just seem to have no direct profit motive. Like this account, which at least formally had a blue checkmark, only 7 tweets, 4 since 2012, 3 of which have over 1 million impressions, no replies to other posts. Yeah, maybe some accounts are pushing CryptoCoin, and yeah, maybe it's a Twitter Blue payout thing, but it's hard to tell. But honestly, the most insane potential profit motive came from FlyYums, an account we talked about earlier that was featured by MasteroftheTDS. This was a bot network in and of itself. This led me to a Vietnamese tool that allegedly helps you run multiple Twitter accounts. In this video and on their YouTube channel, they show a ton of payouts they got from Twitter. And yet, I still don't think it's legitimate. This is advertised by a Twitter bot after all. But I fell deep into the rabbit hole on this one, because like I said before, this is something I suspected when looking into those huge impression tweets. I think that this is probably some elaborate scam to get people to download their sketchy program onto their computer, but who knows? I'm not risking it to find out. The point is, I don't think it's realistic to give you a simple answer that explains all the profit motive for all of these different bots. I think it's very hard to track, and I think it's a case-by-case basis, and I think it's very complicated. I can't wrap it up in one beautiful explanation to you. Anyway, to get back on track, let's summarize my thoughts. For one final time, let's summarize what me and Master of the TDS agree on. The bots are promoting these companies and our products. bot posts that have millions of impressions with very little interactions are very suspicious. When we do see interactions, those interactions are also other bots. And then finally, these bots will tweet about the same thing around the same time, even when they're not tweeting at each other. I think that Master of the TDS's theory that these bots are probably paid for companies like Insomniac, Ubisoft, and Disney is pretty weak because, one, we don't have evidence of these companies controlling these bots. We don't have a paper trail. Two, although these bots will tweet about a specific company or product and get millions of impressions, this is not unique or special. Bots, especially checkmark bots, seem to be able to do this very easily. Although bots will tweet about the same thing around the same time, this is not unique or special either. We were able to find a huge example talking about general facts of the United States. There was no direct profit motive. There was no company we can point to. 4, there isn't enough evidence that direct or indirect bot advertising is effective at all. 5, this theory does not explain the random activity on bot accounts, especially those that tweet about products or services. To wrap up, I think that this bot situation on Twitter is pretty bad. I also think that it's bad that these bots promote specific things, but we don't have enough evidence to claim that any company probably did anything. Is it possible that these companies invested in bots? Yes. Do we have enough evidence to say that it's probable? No. Master of the TDS did a great job proving bots existed, but he did not do a good job providing evidence that these companies are behind the bots. So this chapter of the video comes to an end. The next chapter is just going to be about some of the things that Master of TDS did that I'm not really a fan of. But before we move on, I just want to talk about how creepy this actually is. Bots interacting and getting millions and millions of impressions is quite eerie. They talk to themselves, they boost each other up. If this is a topic you're interested in, there is a fantastic video about Dead Internet Theory which proposes the idea that the most of the content generated on the internet at this point comes from bots. And then just for fun, here's another really good video about how Facebook pages keep posting the most insane AI images, like Shrimp Jesus. So let's get into the Master of TDS's behavior that I'm not really a fan of. Master of the TDS acknowledges he does not have the evidence to accuse any company of doing anything.
Is it the company themselves, or do they hire out third parties? Like, do you think there's like marketing firms that like specialize in like botting or whatnot? Because like for example, we didn't know about Sweet Baby Inc. till recently, but they've been operating in the shadows for years now, doing their consulting gig. Do you think there's something similar, but for bots? Like, do you think there's kind of like a secret cottage industry that we're not even aware of? That's, you know.
So to answer your question, I believe that. So again, we can't confirm whether or not it's the companies themselves.
Only to support allegations towards the companies or to flat out make those allegations himself. Like I said earlier, a lot of bigger e-celebs have used TDS's work, but they will crank up TDS's claims to a point where they're making claims without sufficient evidence. Although Master of the TDS might carefully word a tweet to ensure he doesn't outright accuse a company of bot usage, he will uncritically retweet or boost uses of his work that do make those claims. In this tweet, Grum says Spiderman 2 was caught botting, but of course, like TDS said earlier, we do not know who is controlling the bots. This was retweeted by the Master of the TDS. Here, Grums uses a bot node to claim that companies like Ubisoft hire firms to hire bot farms. Again, retweeted by Master of the TDS. And here, Grums accuses Ubisoft of botting again, and again, retweeted by the Master of TDS. Here, Grums accuses Alan Wake 2 of using bots to promote lower PC requirements, and of course, retweeted by the Master of TDS again. It makes you wonder, why does Master of TDS retweet these claims even though they are, by his admission, unsubstantiated? We do not know who's behind these bots.
Again, we can't confirm whether or not it's the companies themselves.
Grums again is making more accusations he can't substantiate, and Master of TDS is knowingly spreading and supporting these unfounded allegations when he makes these retweets. But I don't just have retweets, I have his own videos. Master of the TDS claims that we know Disney is behind the bots multiple times. Again, keep in mind, April 17th, Master of TDS admits he could not confirm these bots were controlled by the companies.
Again, we can't confirm whether or not it's the companies themselves.
The description of a Gothic therapy video posted on February 28th reads, Disney has once again been caught botting. He also opens the video with this.
We already caught Disney potentially manipulating their stock, but what if I told you that that's not the only thing they're trying to manipulate?
He also ends the video by telling Disney, maybe don't use bots.
How are those Disney Plus view numbers, Disney? If you wanted to convince us that they were good, maybe don't use bots to promote your stuff on social media.
On the same day, they posted a video about bots supporting Nelson Peltz. In this video, he alleges that bots that are supporting Nelson Peltz are being used to frame him. In the description, it says, Disney has used bots to promote before. He then starts his video off with another unsubstantiated claim that Disney has been using bots.
Just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in. We've covered extensively how Disney's using bots, but what if I told you Disney was using these same bots to attack and frame Nelson Peltz?
Despite this fact, he does contradict himself at the end of this video when he acknowledges that somebody else could be behind the bots.
They're all praising Nelson Peltz, but again, this is not going to look good for Nelson Peltz. This is going to look artificial, and I don't really think that Nelson Peltz would be wanting to risk anything like that. And if we already know from past experiences that Disney, or whoever it is, has access to these bots, it would not be crazy to think that perhaps they're trying to use these bots to frame Nelson Peltz in a bad light.
As explained extensively in my last video, I hate these flip-flop claims. In the beginning of your video, you say Disney uses bots, but at the end, that's when you entertain the fact that, oh, these bots can be controlled by anybody? Don't make the original claim if you don't have the evidence. Then you don't have to flip-flop later. Also, it's really funny that this is one of the only times I've seen him acknowledge that bots can make people look bad. He doesn't explore this argument when he's talking about Disney, Spiderman, or Warner Brothers. It's super strange. Also, the argument at the end here just doesn't make sense. Everyone has access to these bots. They're cheap and accessible advertising, as argued by TDS himself earlier. Nelson Peltz would also have access to these bots. It's funny the mental gymnastics needed to justify his position in this video. And then finally, I just straight up found a tweet where he claims Disney is using bots to promote X-Men. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, that's all I'm going to bother to point out. I can go on about what I don't like all day, but I'm tired of this Word document. Well, welcome to the end of the video where I just talk. Wanted to let you guys know that I'm going to be taking a break from this type of prepared content. I still want to make my ESG video eventually, so if you do have strong feelings about ESG and entertainment, please reach out at HowYouDukin on Discord and Twitter. My next video will be about something I like, finally. And if you made it to this part of the video,